But all right. Facebook, I'm assuming that's still going. That looks like it's going okay. We're fine in Periscope here. That seems all fine. All right. So, back to business. Anyway, the headline article about a conservative Christian seeing no evil in the rape of a 15-year-old girl. Well, it's obvious. Well, not obvious a girl, but usually that's the case. Anyway, a friend on Facebook, and I do consider her a friend. I believe we have differing political and religious views, but she loves animals, and so she's has to have a good heart. So, anyway, called my attention to this article over on Pathos, and I think I've got that up somewhere. Yeah, it's over here. Oh, I already had it up. Um, it's on the Progressive Secular Humanist blog. The author is Michael Stone. And anyway, let me go ahead and bring that article up for you. And that's if I can get it to work. Yeah, I can. Houston, we may have a problem. All right. Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. That's what I want. There it is. Yay. All right. Watch this bit of magic as I bring up and for some reason, I can no longer pick the top transitions. So we'll just go with, I've got to report that to Telestream since my upgrade to Wirecast 12, but so we'll do a cross dissolve instead of the nice smooth transition where my talking head moves up to the upper left corner. It does, but we'll do it more of a just cross dissolve here. I like the smooth where the picture gets smaller and then the talking head floats up in the corner. And stripes were probably not a good idea for a video broadcast because it gets that sort of jittery look because of the low resolution. Anyway, so this article, Tennessee lawmaker Van Huss sees no evil in 15-year-old's pregnancy by rape. This is all coming out of the so-called heartbeat bill, HB 77, that was passed today in the Tennessee legislature, uh, which bans abortion if a heartbeat can be detected in the preborn child, in the in utero baby. And we'll take a look at some of the specifics of that bill and uh, approved, as amended. Hey, Freedom Deep, Angie is welcome. Making 44 is here. Bob 32 128 has joined us. Is that a zip code or what is that? But anyway, welcome all y'all. So, um, the author talks about a hearing on HB 77 in the state of Tennessee, which was held. This was, the author Michael Stone about a hearing that was done on February 25th when the bill was being heard in the legislature, and it talks about a heated discussion of the bill. I watched a lot of it on the um, from the 25th hearing, and it was relatively sedate. It was nothing like the Parliament proceedings that we see in the UK or something like that. Those are heated and those get kind of raucous at times. But in the Tennessee legislature, much like the U.S. legislature in the House of Representatives, each person has to be recognized before they speak, that kind of thing, which keeps a cap on the disorderedness of it all. It's a very ordered discussion, and you'll hear applause at times from both sides of the aisle. But he references this exchange between Representative Vincent Dixie and Representative Van Huss, a sponsor of the bill, who was there um, defending the bill and was being, in this hearing, there was questions from both sides of the aisle. And Representative Dixie post this hypothetical you see here, and we can watch it, save you from the pain of me reading out loud to you. But of course, after presenting this hypothetical, which just probably happens, a coach might, rape, a teacher or a coach rape one of his students, a girl, which results in pregnancy. I don't know how that happens. How often that happens. I don't work for the Department of Health or anything like that. I don't know the statistics on that. Admittedly, no expert on teenage pregnancy nor teenage rape. I don't know the statistics. I'll put that out there as a disclaimer. But Representative Dixie puts forth this relatively long scenario, and then he responds a little bit. Representative Huss, I've got it up here. Here it is. All right. Let's make sure I've got some volume for you here that we'll be able to hear that. And let's go ahead and take a look at this exchange. Part of it, a clip of it, is shown in the Patheos article, but not the entirety of the dialogue. I'm going to pick it up just a little bit before that and make sure I got volume up. Let's check it out.
Representative Dixie, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now, I'm a husband of over 20 years, and I'm a father of two girls, 12 and 14. I would have a hard time I can't support this bill because I believe they should have choice. The choice of a woman is between her family, her physician, and God, and no one else. The government does not play a role in that. You stated earlier that you know what evil looks like. I want to
Now, pause for just a moment. It says government does not play a role in that, in a teenage pregnancy. Government doesn't play a role in that. Well, there's a little, there's this sort of Supreme Court decision, Roe v. Wade, back in 1973, that had everything to do with that had to do with right to choose. And what after your law, the network issues here. All right, we're recovered. Anyway, while some activists will chant "Keep your laws off my body," they're also promote government getting involved and putting certain, quote, safeguards, i.e. laws, into place that will allow abortion to continue. So I think it's a little bit disingenuous to say that government is not involved in this situation, whether abortion is permitted or not permitted, the government is involved. Your friend, hey, Nick, how's it going? I'm not gonna say the last name because if you want me to say something that sounds like the N word, but so All right. So back to the video here. Back to the video.
See if you can find the evil in this scenario. Let's say you're a 15-year-old girl in high school who's an athlete, and you're raped by your teacher or coach, and you're feeling some shame, responsibility for the weight that prevents you from confiding in anyone, even your parents and friends. So you're trying to forget and make your life seem normal, going to class, spending time with friends, and you miss your first monthly period. And now you're terrified that you're pregnant. So you finally get the courage to buy a pregnancy test, and the result is your worst fear. You're pregnant. So by the time you go to the doctor, 6 or 7 weeks after the rape, and a fetal heartbeat is detected, Representative Van Huss, are you willing to put into law that this girl has to carry her rapist baby while trying to finish high school, abandoning her sports team, and seeing her rapist every day?
Chairman Van Huss, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the question, Representative Dixie. You asked if I could find the evil in the scenario. I cannot, because the evil I find is what you left out. I don't believe it's right to rip an innocent baby limb from limb.
Representative Dixie, you're recognized.
In that scenario, do you imagine that she would want to finish high school? How would she succeed? What do you think the rest of her life would look like? The baby's life.
Chairman Van Huss, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that every single one of us, obviously, has been given the opportunity at life. And I don't want to take that away from anybody.
Representative Dixie, you're recognized.
I think that you're setting that child up for a life of hardship, as well as the mother, as well as when, are you aware that there have been instances when a rapist has been convicted, sent to prison, and released, they can petition the court to get parental rights to the child?
Is that on the bill? Stay on the bill.
Okay.
Representative Dixie.
Are you aware of any medical issues that result from inbreeding, incest?
Is that on the Representative Chairman
Yes.
Van Huss?
I am aware.
Do you know what they are?
Chairman Van Huss.
I know that it's not up to me to determine the value of someone else's life.
So I take that as a no.
Chairman. Representative Dixie, you're recognized.
All right, so one last question. So basically what this bill is going to do is change the definition of viability that is established by the medical profession and supported by Roe versus Wade. Do you understand that you're changing the well-established definition of viability, which would be unconstitutional and that would affect medical decisions by doctors in the state? How could you possibly change the definition of viability when you're not a qualified medical doctor?
I thought we
Chairman
didn't
Van
want
Huss, you're
government
recognized.
involved. The government
Thank
wasn't
you, Mr.
involved in
Chairman.
this at all.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I worked with folks in crafting this bill. So we define viability as a heartbeat is detected in a pregnancy.
Chairman Hill, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to Chairman Van Huss for this legislation. I do not need any pre-written, prepared remarks to read from. I'm going to simply state.
Okay, well, while the discussion isn't that heated discussion, could you believe the heat and how heated that got and how just just uncontrollable that was? Wow, I just couldn't believe. I thought both men were going to burst into flames. How hot it got in there. I thought the furniture was going to catch on fire because of that heated discussion. Child rape, if the raper is, I'm gonna talk about those things. Okay. So first of all, I just wanted to address the article by Michael Stone in his, what I would say, clickbait article. Tennessee lawmaker Van Huss sees no evil in 15-year-old's pregnancy by rape. You watched it. You just saw the interaction, and he calls it in a heated discussion of the bill. I don't know. I guess because I've seen more heated discussions in politics. I think heated discussion is an exaggeration of what we saw there. I think, yeah, both men were passionate about their position, but I think they both stayed relatively calm and stated their positions. So what I got out of that, I didn't get that Representative Van Huss was saying, oh, no evil, teachers and coaches can rape high school students all day long. That's, give that man a slap on the back. No, I didn't hear that. What I got that he was seeing no evil in is no evil in allowing the child to be born. That is that, the matter in which a child is conceived does not invalidate a human life. And, let's take a look at an actual, take it out of the hypothetical and let's look at a child that was truly unwanted.
The pimp said, you can't make any money having a baby in the oven. We have got to kill this baby. They kicked her in the stomach. They fed her alcohol. They gave her drugs. They took a hanger and stabbed the baby over and over again. But the baby would not die. The baby was born 2 months premature with no pancreas, a learning disability, a bladder too small, unable to function, a severe stutterer. We call it a trick baby. Nobody wants the baby. No hope, no future. Kill it was the word. That baby was me. I'm the lowest of the low. I come from the guttermost. I come from a hellish condition. And so when I would go to school, I couldn't talk. I stuttered so severely from the trauma. My mother had a madam who hated men. Her name was Dolores, and she was a sadist. And when she would watch me, she would take a broomstick and stick it in a place where no boy should have any object in his body. And when you are tortured like that, you learn 4 things. Don't talk, don't trust, don't feel, and pretend nothing is happening. And by age 10, I had had enough. I wanted to die. And in my school, they put me in a boiler room with other kids who were dysfunctional like me, where we would finger paint all day long. And yet there was a teacher, thank God for her, who had a Gideon Bible. And she came to my school and she saw kids like me as her mission field. And she would give me this Gideon Bible and read to me stories of dysfunctional characters who God used. She would say to me, Ronaldo, God uses greatly those who have been wounded very deeply. He will turn your pain into power, your wounds into wisdom. She had me read the story of Moses, who was also a stutterer. I began to understand that God did love a trick baby. Even as low as I was, there was hope for me and possibility. And when a child begins to understand the love of God and the power of his word and the possibilities, it changes everything. How can a young man keep his way clean? By taking heed according to your word. Your word have I hid in my heart that I may not sin against thee. I began to memorize the Bible, that Gideon Bible, reading 2,000 scriptures. And when you put that kind of word in a life, something begins to happen. My stuttering went away. I stopped wetting the bed. I stood tall. I became valedictorian, became a pastor, and preached until everybody in my family got saved. Why? Because somebody placed the Gideon Bible in a woman's hand that changed a life forever. Yes! I was born a trick baby, but the trick was on the devil.
All right. There you go, huh? So that, here we have a case of a prostitute that gets pregnant. Not good for her livelihood. That's the last thing she wants is a baby. The pimp didn't want a baby. They tried to get rid of that baby. Imagine a baby being born to a prostitute. What kind of future does a child like that have? As he said, kill it was the word. Pimps don't want no baby. Prostitute doesn't want a baby. There's no place for that child. Wouldn't it be better for the mother? It's certainly going to affect her livelihood. It wouldn't be better for the child just to terminate that pregnancy? Everybody would be much better off than her having to carry that baby to term. And they tried to kill that baby. But God had other plans. So let's talk about, for a moment, the circumstances in which a human life is conceived. Now I might get behind a death penalty for a rapist, but I'm not going to get behind a death penalty for the baby. The way the child is conceived, the child should not suffer death because of the circumstance in which they were conceived. My beautiful bride, Stacy Lynn, is keen to point out, that's right, Angie, amen. Stacy Lynn is keen to point out that, okay, so one partner's willing, one's not. All right, what if one enjoys it and one does not? What about in a marital relationship, the bonds of holy matrimony? The husband has a good time, but the wife doesn't, or the wife does, but the husband doesn't, and the conception comes out of that. Should we kill the child because the conception wasn't enjoyable for all parties? I believe that when we begin to value a human life, not intrinsically, but conditionally, based on circumstances, not because of an intrinsic human value. I'm a born-again Christian, okay? Let's take religion out of the equation right now. Granted, hey, Rescues Only, welcome to the broadcast. Granted, in the video we just watched, Ronaldo was the Word of God and someone who loved God that made the difference in his life. But for a moment, just hypothetically speaking, let's take the whole religion aspect out of it. If we as human beings determine the worth of a human life based on conditions and not intrinsically, where human life itself has no value except a value assigned to it, either those who were involved in the conception or even outside the conception, as was in the legislature. Well, we see this, that the coach and the teacher, or coach or teacher, raping this 15-year-old girl, that invalidates the human life. I don't care what the coach thinks. I don't care what she thinks. Maybe she wants to carry it to term. We see it as unwanted, and therefore that human life has no value and should be terminated. People, I think that's scary. If you want to look at it from a completely humanistic point of view, with human at the root of that, humanistic, where humans are the, end all be all, that human, that humans have dignity, and we ought to do things that support our own welfare and existence, then it's antithetical to that to say that human life has no intrinsic value, that is only determined by external factors and other people. That, well, if I wanted to get pregnant, then that human life, well, what? Newsflash: we wouldn't have human history if it wasn't for human reproduction. Heck, we've seen in China, and we talked about it yesterday, where they had the one-child policy, trying to control their population, not because of a limit of natural resources, but because of a desire of control of the government, that the populace not get too large. I mean, they cited natural resources and crowding of cities and all that, but there's plenty of place in China to build cities. There's plenty of place in China to grow food, and the vast surface of China and the world is unpopulated and can produce food and fresh water to support billions and billions of people more than already live here. This whole ecological ruse that, this overpopulation. Go down to your local library and pull out an atlas, or you can look it online, but it's more fun to turn the pages and smell those pages. But look online, so you don't have to leave your house. You may not even know where the library is in your city. Look online and look at a map that shows population density, and you'll see that the world's population by order of billions is concentrated in these metropolitan areas, mostly coastal cities, and that's where things are overpopulated. It's not like the rest of the Earth's surface is boiling hot, or it's frozen tundra and uninhabitable. It's not like it's there's nuclear waste buried everywhere on planet Earth, and everybody has to congregate in these little cities. The vast majority of Earth's surface is completely habitable but uninhabited. And anyway, it's not an ecological thing. And I know there's folks out there, I don't see the comments. Maybe they'll be in the replay. This guy's an idiot. He knows nothing about science. No, I'm sorry. That sounds condescending. This poor chap knows nothing about... No, I don't want to insult Brits. But, dude, you probably don't even have a college degree. Dude, you don't know nothing about... Sorry, the double negative. You don't know anything about science. You backward southern hillbilly retards are just completely uninformed on the ecological situation, ecological crisis facing our fragile planet. And if you understood that, you would understand how important it is to limit and control the population. No, I don't work for the Department of Health and Human Services. I do not have a degree. My degree is in computer information systems, by the way. Point. See, it's hard. Stace, I understand it's hard. BSCIS. I only put that on there because Stacy has her MS on there, her Master's of Science, which is in clinical psychology. And so to balance the lower thirds, I thought I'll just throw out that. So my degree, and it's just an undergraduate degree in computer information systems, but I'm a pretty smart guy. I've looked at this stuff, and I've given you my understanding. I could be wrong, but there's not a problem with overpopulation on planet Earth. There's a problem with overpopulation in big metropolitan areas, even India, that has, I don't know how many billion people, almost 2 billion people. Look at where the population is in these big metropolitan areas that are congested and overpopulated. And if you read the United Nations, used to be Agenda 21, it's got some new label now, but the documentation is out there that the plan for the United Nations is to put people in high-density housing. They see that's the way of the sustainable future, is to get... I'm a genius, is to put people in high-density housing. To conserve, natural resources and stuff like that. Well, actually what that does is that puts people in a place where the only access to fresh food and water is what's supplied to them from the outside, and depend upon an oligarchy to supply your each and every human need. If you have a few people producing and providing food, and everyone else in basically apartment buildings all throughout the world, then every resource needed, even in Maslow's hierarchy of need, is dependent upon external circumstances. That isn't what this episode is about. This is about the heartbeat bill and stealing the borrowing somewhat the clickbait from the Patheos article. Yeah, so they can use the weather to kill us. Yeah, and people, control the weather, ha ha ha. Go look at that. I think it was the Energy Act of 2007, the same one that gave us the extended daylight time, where standard time is now only like 3 months of the year. Well, maybe 4 if you count the half months. There is, I could be wrong, I think it's the Energy Act 2007, but there's this that provides government funding for weather study and manipulation. I have to bring it up. It's out there. And anyway. All right. So, where I was going? Well, here it is, 36 minutes after the hour, I would be remiss in not giving tremendous thanks to our sole sponsor, our sole advertising sponsor, who in part makes this possible, who helps underwrite a small portion of our expense, and that is Ariel Ministries. And you can find them online at, want to make this fit better, something like that. Well, I'll just flip it to here. Try not to, see, it really is, Stace, it really is hard to manage all this stuff. It's not for solo person. Anyway, Ariel Ministries, you find them online at ariel.org, ariel.org. If you want to learn more about what they do, a great place to start is up on the top menu there. You'll find the magazine link, and they have a quarterly magazine that comes out. You don't even have to subscribe. You can, but they have the digital copies there. You can look at the latest issue, cover stories when God speaks of himself as us, talking about the plural references in the Hebrew scriptures, and several articles. You can see the different Ariel branches around the world. Anyway, check it out, ariel.org, and if you'll find, in addition to their magazine, a multitude, my phone's ringing, so it's not a little bit distracting. You'll find several resources on the site, good biblical solid teaching that addresses deep questions of life, and if you find anything on their store that you'd like to purchase in print or digital, you can save 20% when you use the coupon code Bible News. 20% Bible News, that's one word. Be sure to use that in the coupon code field when you check out. If you want some suggestions on what you might want to check out on our page, on our site, BibleNewsRadio.com, check out the resources page, and we have several things there. Most of them from Ariel Ministries, things we recommend. I cannot recommend enough the Yeshua Life of Messiah from Messianic Jewish Perspective series, either the abridged version or the full 4-volume version. The 4-volume version will give you the Bible text and the rabbinical text embedded, which makes it a little bit longer. And there are some other fun resources on our page there. that you can purchase directly from our site. Recent book by Dr. Jerry Newcomb, American Amnesia. Good stuff, focusing on government, the American experiment, current society, church and state matters. Check it out. Free shipping in the U.S. Just $30 to get your copy of that. So check those things out. Anyway, Carl 9 something had faded out before I could see it, is here. Diane and Marty and me and Melanie are still here, and thanks all for being here. And certainly we thank those of you pillars that are help underwrite the expenses that we have here of internet and multicasting and all that kind of stuff, and the gear sitting in front of me on the table. You folks, I'm touched that you see enough value in this, place enough value in us to donate something monthly. And if you want to be one of those, you can go to BibleNewsRadio.com/give and set up a monthly donation of any kind you want, whether it's $25 or $2.50, whatever you can spare. Much appreciated. All right, back to me. Now, here I was thinking this part was going to take about maybe 20 minutes of the hour. Not the giving thanks part, but just dealing with this clickbait article and how the Representative Van Huss sees no evil in the 15-year-old rape of a 15-year-old girl. All right. So what I want to do is, since it is in the news, the Tennessee Heartbeat Bill. I had it up here. Oh, okay, there's my document. There we go. All right. See if this works for you. I may have to scale this a little bit. So you can, I think it's just going to be small. So we could. But Tennessee General Assembly, I don't know if you can read it, but this is HB 77, sponsored by Representative Van Huss, who we saw in the earlier video. And it passed in the House today. In the Tennessee House, 65-21, as amended, and is now engrossed and ready for transmission to Senate. We'll see what happens in the Senate. It did. This related Senate bill passed on second consideration and referred to the Senate Judiciary Committee. But now the House bill, since it's passed in the House, is headed over to the state Senate for voting and adopted as amended. And so amendment number 5 is what was adopted. And so if we look at amendment number 5 to this bill, I don't know, is that... Yeah, it doesn't look really good on the monitor screen. I don't know how well you can see that, but it reads like the typical legalese, worse than the end user license agreement for many software applications. But basically, this bill amends Tennessee Code Annotated Title 39, Chapter 15, Part 2, and it's amended as follows. And I'm no attorney. No offense to my Jewish brothers and sisters, but this reminds me a lot of reading the Mishnah and the rabbinical commentary that Rabbi so-and-so said that Rabbi so-and-so said that. But in this case, or in that case, and, rather than just looking at the law and dealing with the exceptions in the courtroom, they try to put all the exceptions into the law itself, which makes it, you need a law degree to understand what the law is, even to read it. Anyway, as I understand it, this first provision says that what is below what's this bill that amends Title 39, Chapter 15, Part 2, will only be in effect as long as it's not held invalid or unconstitutional by judicial order, or is not temporarily or permanently restrained or enjoined by judicial order, or otherwise not enforceable during the pendency of litigation challenging this section's validity or constitutionality. So in other words, it seems like as amended that it can be held up in court forever. Even if it passes the Senate, as amended, it can die a death in a courtroom. Anyway, and then it talks about basically a person shall not purposely perform or induce or attempt to induce an abortion upon a pregnant woman where pregnancy is viable. And it goes on to define viable as having the preborn child, the in utero child having a heartbeat, and then all this stuff, and then it talks about how the physician has to have a written record of what method of testing for a heartbeat was and what the results were. And then I like this part because this has been a criticism of some pro-lifers, and that these bills don't go far enough, is that the abortionist can then just say, well, yeah, I didn't detect a heartbeat, and so I'm going to go through with it. Of course, he's getting paid to do that. He's getting paid to perform the abortion. Of course, he's going to not detect a heartbeat. But there is this paragraph B, where another physician who was not associated in practice with a physician who intends to perform or induce the abortion certifies in writing, in such physician's good faith medical judgment based upon the facts known to the physician at the time, the abortion is necessary to prevent the death of the pregnant woman, or to prevent a serious risk or the substantial and irreversible impairment of a major bodily function of the pregnant woman. So in the case where there is a viable baby, then another physician has to sign off, if the abortion is going to be performed, that in that physician's good faith medical judgment that the abortion is necessary to prevent death of the pregnant woman or prevent serious risk or of the substantial and irreversible impairment of a major bodily function of the pregnant woman. But then it goes on to exclude that if it says the requirement does not apply if there's no hospital within 30 miles with neonatal services and the physician who intends to perform or induce the abortion has admitted privileges at the hospital where the abortion is to be performed. So if there is no hospital with neonatal services within 30 miles of where the abortion is going to be performed, I see, if this holds out for any time, that I can see, an uptick in the number of abortion centers that are 30 miles from a hospital, 30 miles or more. Or if the physician who is going to perform or induce the abortion has admitting privileges at the hospital where the abortion is to be performed or induced. So if there is a hospital with neonatal services, a physician can perform an abortion inside that hospital. So, as the way I read it. Again, I'm not an attorney, and as you can see, this stuff goes on for quite a bit and defines all these terms, et cetera, et cetera. So, whereas I am morally encouraged that Tennessee voters, I don't know, a couple years ago, whatever, voted for Amendment 1, which was about the sanctity of life. And I am encouraged that the House, the State House of Representatives, by a vote of 65 to 21, sees an intrinsic value in human life, not determined by external circumstances or on the say-so of other people, whether a human life has value or not. I am encouraged that they see an intrinsic value in human life. I'm not so sure how this will play out in the courts, if this will hold up or if it'll just be kept in limbo for a while and considered non-enforceable because there is an injunction or pending litigation or something like that. And so I am glad that Amendment 6 didn't pass with Amendment 6, which would have allowed abortion in the case of rape. And as we saw from Ronaldo, that trick baby, and the case of his mother being a prostitute, and the pimp and everyone else trying to abort the baby. After all, it wouldn't be a good life for the mother, wouldn't be a good life for the child, etc. Who's to say? Placing a subjective value on human life, an external subjective rather than an intrinsic value that human life has value. It always kind of has given me kind of puzzled me. There we go. Not search for big words. It's puzzled me how many people who are against the death penalty, because you just shouldn't end a life like that. There's chance for reform, and even if they spend the rest of their time in prison, they can do something with their life. That are against the death penalty, often the same people will be for abortion. Like, well, that baby's life is it's not going to be good. They're going to be wanted in the home, and it's like, I don't see how that's different. You're predetermining before a child is born that its life is not going to be pleasant, where it's okay for someone to spend the rest of their days in prison. They can make something of their life behind bars, whereas a child outside of the womb with the whole world available to them can't make something out of their life. I don't understand the connect there, or the disconnect, really. I don't know if there's one set of ethics that supports both of those views, pro-abortion and anti-death penalty. Because in practice, in the case of rape, the abortion is a death penalty. There's a crime committed, therefore the conceived child must die. Sort of a sacrificial thing. I don't know. And yet often they don't get the whole idea of Messiah Christ dying for us. Anyway, golly, 4:54. Can you believe it? I can believe it. Kind of like to jump into anything else. Why don't I shut up for a while and scroll up for comments here? I'm sure missed them. I'm trying to. Yes, $5. Yeah, $5 an issue. Yeah, for the magazine. Yeah, save 20%. That's on the magazine too, so it'd be 20% off $5. Well, I think it's like $5.50, so $1.10 off of that. $4.40 for issue of the magazine. Looks like your sweet and lovable host, Stacy Lynn Harp, aka Bible News Radio, has been commenting the most during this broadcast. Anyway, so I said I told you I'd be quiet, so I want to hear from all y'all. What are your thoughts about this? About heartbeat of a preborn baby, making that baby viable. Your thoughts on abortion, your thoughts on abortion in the case of incest or rape. Inquiring minds want to know. And I'm looking for your comments off to the side, so doesn't look like I'm looking right into your eyes because the camera is right there. But my monitor of this broadcast and your comments is slightly to the right. If I'd thought it through, I would have set it up a little differently. In fact, maybe I can still do that. Hold on. Whoa, little unsteadiness here. Trying to. Whoa, no, that's gonna. No, that's not gonna work because then the hardware gets wonky and wants to fall off. So I'm not gonna do that. Angie is back. Questions, comments, concerns, criticisms? Rape. What about rape? Abortion in the case of rape. What do you think? Majority voted abusive because someone mentioned the word rape. Of course, I don't know what they wanted to say about it. Okay, folks dropping out now. All right. Y'all got no comments on this? All right, with that, I'll start to wrap this up and put a bow on it. Well, maybe I'll skip the bow. I'll just wrap it up. I want to thank you for joining me and putting up with me running things solo today. Christians Foundations is based on evil acts, open history book. Well, maybe you can give us a condensed history. What evil acts is Christianity based on? I'm shocked that you're seeing them do the same to this day. Don't be shocked you're seeing them do the same to this day. I don't understand that, but I'm curious about the acts that Christianity is based upon. There's the Book of Acts, which is the history of the early church, the early Christian church. If you're talking about God, the living Word becoming flesh, dwelling among us, to have a human body, to be tempted in every way we are, yet without sin, and to give his life as a sacrifice for sin, you could say is the Inquisition. Okay, well, the Christianity isn't based on the Crusades, the Inquisition, the Roman Catholic Church. The Christianity is not based on those behaviors of the church in the Middle Ages. The church of the Middle Ages was an unholy union between the Roman Empire and the Catholic Church. Became the Holy Roman Empire, and to date the Roman Catholic Church, in which the government saw, if you can't beat him, join him. You can go back to Constantine, and when he made Christianity the official religion of the Roman Empire, and the whole unholy alliance that came out of that. You see what was birthed out of that, the Crusades and those sort of things. Well, while the Crusades were in part an initial reaction to the bloodshed and conquering of Muslims of the Holy Land. Yeah, the Roman Catholic Church, yeah, that's how it got so powerful today, is the marriage with the government, with the Roman Empire, and which stayed in there as the Roman Empire was, kind of broke up into the monarchies across Europe. And boy, it's 5 o'clock now, going to a whole history lesson of the church. But let's fast forward, and that's why the framers, the writers of the Constitution, were clear to say that the government, or the Congress specifically, not government at large, limiting the powers of Congress. The Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion. They didn't want that. They didn't want that state religion. They didn't want the Roman Catholic Church. They didn't want the Holy Roman Empire. They didn't want the state to say, okay, this, is our denomination, and all others are infidels. They wanted freedom of worship, freedom of practice. Which is why the First Amendment says the free exercise thereof. They didn't want to dictate it. The wrong people infiltrated the Hebrews' religion. Well, yeah, when you get into what, rabbinical Judaism and the whole legalism of the Pharisees and the Sopharim and the Mishnah, Talmud, stuff like that, where it turned into legalism rather than relationship with the Almighty. Yeah, and Yeshua, the Messiah, Jesus, the Christ, he had no uncertain words to both contradict and condemn. He didn't change religion to how they live, vile, disgusting. Yeah, right. Look for loopholes. Anyway, I'm past the hour. I need to wrap this up. So I thank you very much for being with me this time. And it's my turn now, instead of just queuing things up for the exit here, to remind you to be bold, to stand up and go with God. Why? Because he loves you very much. Ronaldo knew that, as you saw. If you didn't catch that, go back, watch the replay, the trick baby. Because he learned that God loved him, he could stand. Yeah, we can get into the whole Hebrew roots movement, stuff like that, in another episode. Anyway, so yeah, Ronaldo learned that God loved him, and he was able to be bold and stand up and become a powerful force for good and the gospel because of God's love. And you can too. We'll catch you, today's only Thursday, so tomorrow, Friday, we'll catch you tomorrow, 4 p.m. The same channels for Free for All Friday. Love y'all. Until then, bye.